You only get one life, so it's important to make the most of it. Is it possible to achieve both happiness and success in life? I've been thinking about this for 20 years. And I know that being busy isn't the answer. So how does life work? There are 10 components that make up a successful life. They all fit together, so if one of the parts is weak, then everything slows down. The objective is to enjoy and achieve as much as you can. Live your maximum life. So step one is to sort out your life goals. Life goals are incredibly important. You have to have a dream for your life, some sort of objective of where it's going to go, and you've got to think big. Most people don't have goals for their life. Most people just drift through life. They just turn up to work. They do what their boss tells them. Maybe they don't like their work, but what else can they do? But the important thing is to have something that you would ideally like to do in your mind. And if you do have a goal or a dream in your mind, it's much more likely to happen. Now, I want to tell you what happened to me, because I did this and it worked, and it will work for you if you do the same as I did. Years ago, I read a book. It was talking about successful people, and it said you've got to have goals and you've got to write them down. And I decided to give it a go, and I wrote a great big long list of everything that I would like my life to be like. To my shame, it did start with a particular type of car I wanted, but I was only young and that was kind of what excited me. And I wrote down a certain amount of money, and I wanted to have a house with a view of the sea and a dog and all sorts of, to play in a band. All sorts of things were on this list. And I wrote the list, and the book said I should look at the list every morning when I got up and every night before I went to bed. And I did this for about a week. Then I got bored with reading the list. And about 2 or 3 years later, I was moving house. And when I moved the bedside table, I found the list, which had fallen down the back of the bedside cabinet. And I had a look at the list, and everything I'd written down had all come true. I'd forgotten about the list, but it still all came true. And I just thought, that's weird. How can that possibly have worked? How can it have worked? And I'll come on to that in a moment, of how can it work. So my first thought was, how can it work? My second thought was, do another list. Let's find out whether this works. So my second list was a lot shorter and simpler than my first list. On my second list, I just put to do a job I really enjoy and to only work 2 or 3 days a week, because that would be brilliant, wouldn't it? And I just wrote that. I had no idea how it was going to happen. At the time, I was running a factory. And if you run a factory, you're never going to do it in 2 or 3 days a week. And you're probably not going to enjoy it that much, because it's quite a tough, thankless task. But that's what I wrote down. And again, I kind of forgot I'd written it down. I stuck it on the wall, but I kind of got used to seeing it on the wall. And 2 or 3 years later, I found myself working as a university lecturer. And it turned out to be a job that I really loved. And it only required 2 or 3 days a week. And I suddenly thought, it's happened again. I've written my list down and it's happened again. So now I'm on my third list, and it's big, because whatever I write down happens. Now, it doesn't matter what I've put on my list. The point is, you would have your own list, and it would be whatever you want to do. And whatever you write down will happen. But how does it work? How can it possibly work? Well, I think there are 2 reasons why writing things on lists works. The first one is your internal sat-nav. Every day you make little decisions. Every day you think, shall I listen to this person? Even now you're probably thinking, shall I write a list? What shall I put on my list? Shall I put big or small things on my list? So every day you make little decisions that take you either in the direction of your personal goals for your life or not in that direction. And most people don't have goals. They're just driving randomly through life. And if you drove randomly in your car, where would you end up? Probably somewhere not very nice. So I think that's the first thing. Your subconscious will just make little decisions to get you in that general direction. The other reason is that it gives you self-discipline and assertiveness. So if you think about it, if you've got very definite things you want to achieve, you will be more focused and more self-disciplined. You're more likely to do the work that you need to do in order to get there. Whereas if you haven't got goals, why bother to be self-disciplined? You might as well just go and eat crisps and read the paper or something. And similarly, you're more likely to be assertive if you've got goals. You're not going to let other people stand in your way if you're determined to achieve those goals. So the things that will get in the way will either be yourself or other people. And that's lack of self-discipline or lack of assertiveness. And goals will help with both of those. But really, you don't need to worry about how it's going to work to start with. Really, all you need to do is write these goals down, and then your subconscious will just make it happen for you. So that's the first thing to do. Write your goals down really clearly. And I'm going to look at this in a bit more detail in the second section. But before we go on to the second section, I just want you to get a piece of paper, write down what your ideal life would be like. What things would you like to be doing in your ideal life?
Live your maximum life.